Hey everybody, today I am out at Polestar Day and they have brought along the all-new Polestar 4. Very soon we're actually going to see the Polestar 3 in showrooms and on sale in the US. This is going to be the next model in the lineup. And interestingly, it shares nothing with any Polestar that has come before. Let's take a deeper dive into this particular model. When you look at the front end design, you'll notice that it has the signature Polestar lighting elements, but with a twist. We don't have some of those individual elements that we find in the Polestar 3, and the light modules are more separate from one another. That's again because this is not based on a Volvo platform like every other Polestar has been so far. We have an illuminated Polestar logo there, and you notice much more of a smooth front end look. That's because this has only one radar sensor in the front. This has a new generation of their active safety tech with the camera right there, nice and low, radar sensor below that. They say that the radar sensors are still here for redundancy, and then everywhere else around the car, we have tons of cameras. So Polestar has put 3 cameras behind the windshield and then another 3 cameras on each side of the vehicle. We actually have a camera module right here. It's not replacing a side view mirror. And then below the side view mirrors, we have 2 more cameras there. So lots and lots of camera tech going on. Now, under the body, you'll find either an approximately 272 horsepower rear electric motor in the long-range base model or 544 horsepower. And Polestar has indicated that that's just where the Polestar 4 is going to start, and there will be more performance-oriented versions in the future. So if you ever wanted to know why Polestar exists and what the difference between Polestar and Volvo is, Polestar is going after a much higher level luxury performance customer, so a little bit different than Volvo. You can see those tail lights that are now on with that big bar that connects one side all the way across to the other. And now we get to the most controversial feature on the Polestar 4, which is the lack of rear window. Here's what's going on. You'll notice that we have this cutout section. I initially had thought that maybe we'd get a rear window in areas of the world where they really wanted one, like, I don't know, America, but that's not what we're gonna get. Instead, what's going on is that this is a composite hatch. So this is a composite material, but they needed some extra structure, so they needed to include a steel element. And rather than try and layer the composite material over, they decided to highlight it by having that opening. Now, a lot of folks were asking, what's going on up here? Is this a window? The answer is no. It is just a black plastic trim section that connects the glass on top. So let's go ahead and open this up so you can see what's going on inside. Power hatch, obviously. Inside, we get just the Polestar logo right there on top of the hatch. It's sort of hatch meets trunk, I guess you could say. And if we go in for a close look, you can see why they don't have a rear window, because this is all you'd really get. It has a very low slung roof line, and then they have this little divider that you can actually, sort of parcel shelf off the trunk, or you can completely remove it if you'd rather do that. So if you want to, keep your stuff in the back and not have it be visible, you could have that up. I guess if you wanted to have your dog in the back and you wanted them to be able to, bark at you inside, you could do that as well. We have a large cargo area back here with a separate cargo well in the floor. This is an early pre-production prototype, so that's why there's a power cord hanging out in there. And then if we go around to the front, there is also a front trunk. I'll go ahead and open that up so you can see what that looks like. It's one of the double pull varieties, and then it has a separate lid. Again, keep in mind this is an early pre-production car. It is a relatively small front cubby under here. And I'm surprised by that given how large the front end design is on the Polestar 4. It's pretty low, but I had expected just a little bit more storage. All right, let's go ahead and check out the interior. This is also a departure from what we've seen from Polestar in the past for a variety of different reasons. Obviously, the styling is a little bit different. We have a horizontal rather than a vertical LCD right here in the middle. Let me know what you think about that. This definitely makes the dashboard look bulkier, but I like the functionality better than the vertical screen. The one thing I don't like, however, is that this system has the, if I can find it on here. Oh, there we go. There we go, obviously there. It has the very Tesla-like air vent controls up there. They do appear pretty responsive, and they are slimmer and I would say sexier than the ones we find in the Rivian. We have this big bar running right there across the passenger side, big central air vent right there below the touchscreen as well. And then the rest of the interior is very recycled materials, so lots of soft touch materials, lots of soft plastics here, recycled materials all over the interior. This new sort of, I guess, sports shoe kind of fabric on the seats. The seats themselves don't look like any Volvo seat that we've seen before. It has a unique Polestar design with the integrated headrest there, very much a sporty feel, just as you'd expect. Let's go ahead and check out the back seats, because that's supposedly why we don't have a rear window in this vehicle. Initially, they said that it was going to be because it would improve rear seat headroom, And I'm not buying it because my head is still touching the ceiling there. We do have power reclining seats. There's the power recline button for the outboard sitting position. So, I could give this seat very much an upright posture, and then I would have maybe about an inch of headroom left. But if you want to recline it back there, the frame and the hinge for that rear hatch is all still in that area. And you can see with this hatch open, this is the kind of view you'd get if you did have a rear window. There wouldn't really be a whole lot going on there. Although I am surprised, if we just go back up here for one bit, that we actually have an actual rear view mirror. I'm not quite clear why we have a mirror when there's nothing really to look through. Now, this is a early production Chinese market vehicle, so we do have controls back here for the rear climate, the rear seat heating, etc., the seat fold button, etc., and actual real air vents. Almost completely flat floor as you'd expect. There is just a tiny bit of a hump in order to help improve the structure of the vehicle. And it is going to seat 5. Let's go ahead and check out the middle seat. As far as middle seats go, this is pretty decent, and feels like I have about the same kind of headroom that I had on the outboard side. Now, if we take a look at these doors over here, they've really gone in an interesting direction with the ambient lighting. They're ambient lighting elements inside this fabric section of the door panels, as well as around the bottom. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to drive the Polestar 4, but I have been able to take a ride in it, so let's see how that went. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to drive the Polestar 4 myself, and bear in mind, these were early pre-production prototypes, so there were a few things that hadn't been completely ironed out yet. For instance, the suspension will be an adaptive variable suspension system, but the only drive mode that was available was the normal mode. We couldn't experience the firmest or the least firm suspension mode. But any way you slice it, the 4 rides significantly differently than the Polestar 3. It definitely feels firmer and sportier as far as the ride quality from the front passenger seat, and that would make sense because the Polestar 3 uses an adaptive air suspension system similar to the one that we're going to find in the Volvo EX90. The other thing that surprised me is that the 4 felt very, very peppy, even though they were driving us around in the single-motor rear-wheel drive models that have 272 horsepower, 253 pound-feet of torque. The available dual-motor setup is going to be 544 horsepower, 506 pound-feet of torque, and they say that's going to go 0 to 60 around 3.7 to 3.8 seconds. Acceleration was definitely more brutal in the Polestar 3 dual motor that we were driven around in before, but the 272 horsepower motor did an admirable job moving the Polestar 4 around. I don't have official weight figures just yet, but I would suspect the Polestar 4 is significantly lighter than the Polestar 3. And this definitely seems to make sense as far as perhaps a discount Porsche Taycan competitor or a competitor to something like the BMW i4, definitely the Model 3. Now, I don't know exactly how much the Polestar 4 is going to cost, but I know it's going to be around $60,000, and I know it's going to be significantly less expensive than this Polestar 3, which is right next to it. This is about $84,000. The Polestar 4 is probably going to be about 20 grand less expensive. And that's for a few reasons. This is built on a less expensive platform. The Polestar 3 shares things with Volvo. It shares Volvo's active safety setup, the air suspension. This is going to have a regular steel spring suspension on it, etc. And there's some other cost savings features that Polestar has employed here. Most notably, the lack of the extra radar sensors. We just have that one down there on the front that I mentioned earlier, rather than 5 to 6 radar sensors that you'd find in the average European luxury vehicle. Now, this is going to have an expanded suite of sensors in the future, so you will be able to get a joint venture between Mobileye and Luminar. It's going to have LiDAR in addition to the radar, in addition to all the cameras around, and that's going to give you full hands-off-the-wheel driving capability. Probably the same level of autonomy that we find in the Mercedes lineup. They say it's not just hands off the wheel, it's eyes off the road in that mode. So think what's going on in the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, and this is probably going to be cheaper than that system in the Mercedes. We just don't have too many details on it just yet. The Polestar 4 is really an interesting new direction for the Polestar brand because, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is the first model that is not based directly on Volvo technology, and it's the first one that is stylistically very drastically removed from the Volvo lineup, and it really shows the sporty direction that Polestar wants to go in. Polestar wants this to be seen as an alternative to a Porsche or another high-end European luxury sports car, sports SUV, whatever you want to call this particular format. And I definitely finally believe that mission because this, the 5 and the 6, are an entirely different world than the Polestar 2. If you want to know more about the 5 and 6, be sure and check those videos out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see all of you next week.